Laura, great to have you here. You're working for Bing Ads. Can you give us some details on what you are doing for Bing Ads?
So I work in planning and forecasting. So I sit in Bing Ads, but I think about the whole Bing market in general. So the main questions that we're trying to answer is, in an hour, how are we going to be doing? What's the marketplace going to be doing? And then in a day, and a week, and a month, and a quarter, and a year, and you get the idea. So my main role is to have a sense of where the marketplace is going and what it's doing right now.
You have a quite strange profile, I would say. So usually in advertising you find people with a technical or business background. Your background is biology. So explain us a little bit, what does biology have to do with advertising?
Yeah, not even econ, right? All the way over to biology. So a lot of what I worked on when I was a graduate student involved a lot of trying to take a lot of data and create some kind of story out of it. And that's really driven by the understanding of what is happening. And not just that, but they're really complicated systems. So I'll be honest, the things that were really obvious in biology and the big signals that were out there, people publish papers, we've known it for a long time. And so when you're doing a lot of research now, you're pulling in vast amounts of data, and then you have to parse it. You have to go through and find all the little threads that come together that actually create the data you're seeing, and those are the patterns that you're interested in, and remove the noise. And I think, at least to me, that sounds an awful lot like what we do with search. Where we have these really complex systems. I mean, I would say that search is as complicated as these big microbiological systems that we take a look at. So then to parse that together and try to understand what is actually happening in the system. So that's really what ties it together, is the searching for signal in the noise.
Can you give us some more transparency? Maybe mention one of your current projects. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis, I sit down and I look and see how all the markets are doing. And then that's a really interesting question, because then I sit down and I start to figure out, why is a market not performing to the expectation that we had, right? So when we set a forecast or an expectation, we know exactly what goes into it, right? We know exactly how we built what we think the marketplace is going to do. And so then I will sit down and look and say, boy, you know what? The UK on the 9th of this month is just not performing like we thought it was going to. And then we'll start to try to iterate and figure out why that is. I will give you a spoiler. It was the snap elections in this case. And that really changed what users were doing, what people were searching for. And that wasn't necessarily something that we had expected, say, a year ago when we're setting our budget, that on June 9th we're going to have snap elections. So those are the kinds of questions that we try to answer on a day-to-day basis.
We were just together on the Mad Scientist panel on SMX Advanced, and your speech was quite impressive and well received. Could you maybe summarize in a few words what your topic was about?
Yeah, so I spoke a lot about how we think about data and analyze data, the assumptions that we can make and how we can use those assumptions, but we need to make sure to test them. I talked a little bit about pulling in different kinds of analyses and experiments to really test the ideas and the assumptions that we bring into the data, right? So we've got data, we've got assumptions. What can we pull out of the data, and how do we look at it from multiple angles to make sure we're not just solving to whatever our personal confirmation bias might want us to solve to, but to triangulate an answer and to get to something that we feel comfortable and confident is, if not the whole answer, a really good chunk of it.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I got into paid search, it was probably 8 years ago, you always needed smart people to make decisions. Today we see that sometimes we are being replaced by smart algorithms, so AI is taking over, whether it's on Google or Microsoft, everywhere else. What do you think are the long-term implications of or the impact of AI on our industry?
Yeah, so I think that as the AI has come out, and I'm guessing as it goes forward, this system's not getting any less complicated, so I think you still need people to help slice and dice and look at information in new and unusual ways that perhaps really you can't do any other way than having a lot of smart people looking at it. That being said, I also could see that there are certain tasks that perhaps will become automated, the AI can handle. So maybe instead of spending time generating reports or doing some of these tasks that you do over and over again, that we can move more into that sort of creative thinking space as far as trying to parse these whole systems together into something that we can optimize.
So my personal perception is that today we live in a world of illusion, that we think we can measure everything. But if we drill down a little bit, we see that let's start from incrementality of ads in general. So how incremental are the ad sales we are making? We see numbers, but what portion of these sales coming in would have happened anyways? The same with retargeting, and I could continue with a long list of things we do not know. So are we rather making decisions out of gut feeling, or are we really data driven?
I really love the fact that you got in that part of the question, which is what would have happened, which I think is really the crux of a lot of these conversations, where people measure, okay, it was X and now it's Y, but what we can forget, especially in a system that's so complex as search, is that, well, Y isn't necessarily equal to X, right? What would have happened had we not done this, let's say if we're omniscient and we understand, may not have looked anything like where our system was to begin with because of other changes that are going on. So really trying to measure something incremental is extraordinarily difficult. And your gut feeling can tell you one thing, but you really then have to go and verify it. Even if you never get to where you're 100%, like this is the answer 100%, if you can at least get towards an answer, that can tell you a lot. For sure. And that is one of the biggest questions I think that we have. One of the examples that I struggle with when I think of what is the answer to something like a big question like this is seasonality, which I talked about quite a bit, right? We've got seasonal movements, so that gets into that, what would have happened, right? Oh, we did this thing, we made this change, and look, our sales, went way up. Okay, this is an obvious example, but let's say it was Black Friday. Like, duh, of course. It actually had nothing to do with it, so that gets that question of what would have happened. Which is a big one. And then the other is a little bit more existential, where my mom's birthday is February 18th, and Valentine's Day is February 14th. So if I do a search for flowers on February 10th, and I go in and buy flowers for my husband, and I buy flowers for my mom, is that a seasonal search? I don't really know, because I went in with two intents. Maybe I didn't even know which one I was going to do first. So it seems like it's related to Valentine's Day, but maybe it's really more this background level of flower searching that happens with birthdays. So that measurement is really difficult, but really vital to get at that question.
Laura, thanks a lot for your time. Really
interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.